Lawrence Francis, host of Interpreting Wine, welcoming you to the Carnuntum Winemaker Special Series. Produced in collaboration with Wine & Partners, the first regional series of the year is in many ways a return to the origins of interpreting wine, recorded in person at the winery with respected local producers who are themselves deeply rooted in the region, giving wine students and wine lovers alike access to the minds behind the wines. Literally the next best thing to visiting the region yourself. Here in episode 541, foreshadowing a tasting planned for Vievinum Wine Fair 2024, we focus on a tasting of single vineyard wines from Carnuntum's standout 2015 and 2019 vintages. Before in episode 542, we focus on Rubin Carnuntum Association and the work that continues to support the communication of zweigelt as a high-quality red varietal. We kick things off today in the company of Johanna Markowitsch and Christina Netzl of Weinguts Markowitsch and Netzl, respectively. Johanna and Christina first telling us their origin stories and speaking to intergenerational winemaking, before Christina talks to Rubin Carnuntum Association and its lasting impact on both the production of zweigelt and its perception, both within Austria and internationally, before Johanna introduces us to the ÖTW, the association focused on expressing single vineyard sites from around Austria. Before then, a tasting of 4 wines, all of them predominantly zweigelt based. The Weingut Pear Ried Bull 2015, the Weingut Netzl Ried Barnreiser 2015, and the Markowitsch Ried Kirchweingarten 2015, before closing with the Markowitsch Ried Rosenberg 2019. Of course, we never just stick to the wines on Interpreting Wine, so we'll be exploring the various differences and contrasts between them as we explore the flight. In closing the episode, Johanna takes us through choices being made right now around planting sites that will affect the wines and perception of the region for years to come. Enjoy!
Thank you for the invitation and welcome in Carnuntum. My name is Johanna Markowitsch, so I'm running the winery together with my dad. I'm at home now since 5.5 years. But before I started winemaking at home, I did some internships. I have been to South Africa, in Swartland for half a year, and also in Germany, in Pfalz, and was working also in Austria for a wine trader called Wine & Co. So also this experience from the marketing side brought me then really to make the decision to go back home. And now I'm very happy where I am. So I'm I do like everything. I'm in the cellar, also sometimes in the vineyards, but I do also a lot of the sales stuff, what we have to do. But during harvest time, I'm 100% at home. We are 100% family-owned winery, but of course we have employees. They are helping us. We have a very young team now. So we have 2 winemakers and my dad and me. So it's really, I would say very family-owned. And of course we have some help in the vineyards.
Yeah, hi, I'm Christina Netzl from Carnuntum, from the winery Netzl, same name, it's my surname. So like Johanna, I'm running a family winery together with my parents. They're still working with me, still very important helping hand. So I took over the winery from them. They built up the winery from a very small mixed farm, focused on wine production, focused on high-quality wines. They have always been very focused on the region, on Carnuntum, on regional style, on the most important grape varieties we are growing here. And I had the pleasure to take it from my parents to work with them after my studies of phenology and international wine management. I decided to stay in the family winery. We did everything together, and now, I started in 2007, so it's 16 years ago now, 14 almost. Now I took everything over, so I'm responsible for the wine production, for the winemaking, for the styles of the wines. But of course, we do have employees as well, so I have lots of helping hands. It's always I think wine is always a result of a teamwork. You need a good team in the vineyards, and you need a good team in the cellar to help you.
I'm fascinated by the theme of the transition from generation to generation. And again, it can be, a few words or maybe even a couple of examples. But I think it would be interesting to get some of your insights, now already having the reins, if you like, and continuing on for sure back in the family tradition. Sharing a little bit about that sort of cultural change almost within the winery, and how that was for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general in Carnuntum is a big generation change going on right now. I can talk for our winery. I think the fact that we are two of us brings on the one hand a big experience from my grandparents and my parents in the vineyard and in the winemaking and in the region and where they plant which varieties and why, because my dad is making wine since 30 years now, so sometimes I trust him. No, there is a big respect for that. And on the other hand, I think I can bring a little bit of fresh wind regarding styles, but I really appreciate what he did. And for us now, we are 100% sure together where we want to go. We want to focus on our single vineyards, but we want to do more low intervention, but still. And I think now we can really concentrate on our style. We work completely different than for 30 years, but I think this is also okay. But I think, it's a good combination, his experience and, my fresh wind, my style and my ideas. And thank God we are also friends and can talk about everything.
Yeah. No, it sounds like, obviously not changing everything in one thing and alienating the customers that you already have, but also recognizing that there is fresh impetus, fresh energy, and maybe new ideas and tweaks and changes that can be made. And do any particular examples come to mind, maybe about where the fresh wind has maybe left a change?
Yeah, fresh wind. I mean, when it comes to red wine, I do not prefer this very much oak. So we try to try red wines with less oak. So we have now a very good combination. Also spontaneous fermentation and all this stuff. Not a really concentrated style of the reds. When it comes to filtration and every stuff like this, make then a good. How can I say a good result? Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
And also the implementation of new wines is also a thing what we did together.
So like planting new grapes.
I have my own wine lines, my own products, but we still do everything together. So there is something going on, because I think if you stop doing new things, you're dead. And this is the thing,
Yeah, I think the most important factor when more generations are working together is respect for both of you. Because there is, when you are young and you go back home and you're full of new ideas and you saw so many new things which are interesting and new trends and new things on the market. So you want to change things, you want to do new implementations, new styles. And after the first years of working together with my father and my grandfather at that time, it was really important for me to find a combination of the tradition and the style which is actually possible in our region, because you always have to have in mind what is the style of the region you're working with and the wines and the grapes you have here. And to find a way where you have a combination of both, where you find a combination of the things you like, you saw, you just found, which are new, with the things you can do here. And this is actually exactly what the experience of the older generation brings. Tell you, they did it for so many years, and they just know the wines, they know the soils, they know the different vineyards, they know where a new style might be possible or a new grape variety might work. And I think maybe it is easier to work with my father. Father-daughter might be a little bit easier than father-son, I think, combination. I don't know why, but there are so many father-daughter duos here in Carnuntum, and I think it's always a great combination. And yeah, just to having both aspects in the wines, and then you feel it. You definitely feel it afterwards.
Yeah, interesting. It genuinely wasn't a sort of a planned segue, but I had noticed that. I had seen, certain photographs on the internet of, a sort of, pretty much all female. I think there was one guy sort of down the back in the under the tree. But is that to say then even some families where they had kind of they had male sons and female sons and, boys and girls, where it would actually have been the girl who would come forward and take over the reins as opposed to the guy, or it kind of depends. It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Depends. Actually, they're mainly daughters in Göttles Mohn. But it depends. I think the most important thing is that you do what you like, and there should never be a pressure, especially in a family business, for any of the kids to take over a family business just because you have to do it, and you will never be successful with a thing you don't really like to do, especially in the winemaking, because I think a winery, it is a very intense job. It is a very diverse job. So you have so many aspects which you have to take care of, and you really have to be into it and like it to get good results and to be successful with the wines.
That's the most important. It has to be. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And I think it maybe even shows in the wines as well. It's like there has to be. I think for the best results, in my opinion, in my experience, it's been the people they've got to have the passion, they've got to have the dedication, and even Johanna, you were saying about your day-to-day work. Always tasting the wines, always on site. It's like you can't mail it in or telephone it in. You have to be present, right? You have to be here, and we are here. So fantastic. Before we get into these wines that you've already alluded to, Christina, I think what also stands out for me about Carnuntum, which again is my first physical trip to the region, and I've literally just arrived, so I'm going to be getting out there, seeing what you've got going on here, and tasting lots of the wines as well. But I think what I'd like to kind of bring into the conversation almost are more of the kind of communication / marketing elements. And I know that the four wines that we've got here are all zweigelt grape, but that are also then. I don't think we can really talk about Carnuntum, talk about zweigelt without mentioning Rubin Carnuntum, and I think later OTV, which will become apparent as we kind of go through. So I think it would be great to fill in the listener and fill me in. Really, it can be relatively short. Kind of what does Rubin Carnuntum itself mean to the region, and a little bit of a history of that before we transition into talking about the OTV.
Rubin Carnuntum is a group of winemakers from our wine-growing region, Carnuntum, which is actually one of the youngest wine-growing regions in Austria, because we are one of the smallest wine-growing regions. So this is why we never have been independent. We've never been our own region. And when we finally got Carnuntum as our own origin, the winemakers came together and formed the group of the Rubin Carnuntum wineries to show the most typical style of the region. So we are located in Lower Austria. We are the only region in Lower Austria with a higher percentage of red wines produced than white wines. Generally, Lower Austria is a white wine area. So we are pretty special, very unique in Lower Austria. We are right on the border to the Burgenland. We are located in between those two big climates, next to the Danube River, where mainly white wines are grown, and next to the Lake Neusiedl, the Pannonian area, a warmer climate, higher, riper wines and grapes. And this is why the regions or the winemakers there are really focusing on red wines. And we are kind of somewhere in the middle. So there is white wine produced, there's red wine produced. Our main grape variety is zweigelt. So this is definitely the most grown variety here in the region. And the winemakers tried to show the most typical style of the region with the Rubin Carnuntum wine. So the wine was called Rubin Carnuntum. It is a brand. produced here in the region. Everybody or every winemaker in the group is allowed to produce his own Rubin Carnuntum, and it really shows the most typical style of zweigelt in our region, which means a highly ripe zweigelt style, but still lots of freshness, lots of spice. It is always a very lively and crunchy kind of zweigelt, not too overripe. They wanted to show the people out there what the typicity of Carnuntum actually is with the Rubin Carnuntum, and this was the main goal of the group or of the association, to promote, to get the style of Carnuntum wines all over Austria and finally internationally. So the zweigelt style in Carnuntum is the very typical dark cherry fruit. When you go to single vineyard wines, when the wines are older, they're rooting deeper, they really got all the impact from the lower layers in the lower area. So if you look at the soil in Carnuntum, you have lots of gravel on the hillsides. There are some loessy parts in the lower areas, and there's lots of clay. So it is very, in the lowest parts, and it is a very calcareous soil. So when you get deeper roots, you get the impact from all the different layers you find there, and it absolutely makes the wines more complex, deeper, darker, and more spice-driven. So there's definitely, so you always find lots of fruit. It is always a very fruit-driven, juicy style of zweigelt, underlayered with lots of spicy herbal and mineralic aromas because of the different layers. But it is definitely a very dark fruit, crunchy style of zweigelt you find here.
I can't resist a follow-up question. But then, based on that, then is it fair to say that Carnuntum also is, I guess, blessed with some of the older vines of zweigelt as well, because you bring in that, the beauty of the older vines, that ability to capture and bring up that expression from, beneath our feet.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is why, or because the generation of my parents, they focused on zweigelt. They found zweigelt as their most important grape variety, which feels very well here in the region. So we luckily now have lots of great aged zweigelt vineyards. They are between 25 and 30 years, or started between 20 and 30 years. So it is a perfect age actually for wines, which we can work with now. And they are really showing all the character we want them to show from Carnuntum, from the soil.
I think it would be great to transition from what Tina just said there about the Rubin Carnuntum, just again at a relatively high level, before we get in and taste these single varietal and single vineyard wines, just to give us an intro to OTV and your membership and what that kind of means for the winery and for you guys.
When we talk about ÖTW, it means Österreichische Traditionsweingüter. In English is like Austrian traditional wineries. And I think if you recognize that, the idea of ÖTW is to classify single vineyards. And this is always, the highest goal is to get the highest quality. So quality is the most important thing when we talk about single vineyards. I mean, the classification of single vineyards, maybe when you think about Austria, you actually know it from the white wines, so about Wagram, Kamptal, Dreisental, they're doing it since years now. But Carnuntum is one of the first regions in Austria classifying red wines. So this never happened before, and this is a thing where we have been very thankful and proud of. But it's a process, and it's not so easy, because as you know, there are many interests of winemakers, so you have to really find one idea out of it. And for us as Carnuntum winemakers, it's important to just classify the highest quality vineyards. Here in Carnuntum, we have 9 of them. And it's not so easy to classify a single vineyard because, you have to fulfill a lot of factors. What is the factor? How long is the wine on the market? Quality, rankings, also a feeling of what you know about the wine. So positioning on the market and everything. So it's not like that you classify a single vineyard and you tell this is the best of it. No. There you have to get an agreement from everyone. But the most important thing is what you have to know. If you see this ÖTV logo on the bottle, you as a client know for 100% where it's from. You 100% know where the wine grows, and you can be sure there is not a lot of wine on this market. You can just classify that where the grape variety stands, and you have you know that you get the highest quality. So it's like a guarantee also for the client, and for us it's the only way to make high quality red wine.
Yeah, so we prepared a few single vineyard wines, which are a little bit aged. So we decided to focus on 15 and 19 vintage. We are starting the first wine. We're starting with this from Weingut Peyer, Riedbühl. It is a blend based on Zweigelt with Blaufränkisch and Merlot. And Robert Peyer, he's actually the president of the Rubin Carnuntum wineries. Okay. So he's our president. He is, his style is really special in our region as well, because he is keeping the full soil grassy, so he's not opening the soil, and which makes the wines very concentrated, the tannins very structured, very tight wines all the time. So a little bit aging is always good for his wines, I think. Riedbühl is one of the warmest vineyards we have here in Carnuntum, so it is next to the village Höflein. It is in the village Höflein with very sandy soil, so it is very exposed, pretty dry, and therefore very warm. If you taste it, so you definitely feel the dark fruit. It is a very ripe style of a fruit, but still not overripe, so there are no jammy or cookie aromas. It is still a fresh fruit of very dark berries, I think. Blackberries and on the palate is very well integrated tannin now, because the wine is 8 years old now, so it really had some time to relax, to find together in the bottle, showing lots of spice, showing a very long body. I think you feel some nice minerality coming from the high lime content in the soil, which is always very important factor here, although the soils might be very dry or also heavy, the clay areas, the lime content is very high, and therefore you always feel this freshness on the palate. I think there's always some nice fresh aspects which are keeping the wine long and not too heavy or too full-bodied. Sure. Okay. 15 was a great vintage here in the area, so especially for red wines, it was, for me, it is one of the best vintages we had in the last 10 years, with highly ripe grapes. Harvest wasn't too early, so you feel that the end ripening process was in a time where you had cooler nights. I think you can feel it. The aromas of the wines are fully ripe, but still these fresher, cooler aspects in the aromas. And tannin structure, of course, it is great.
Again, I missed your great descriptions, because I think it's really amazing, but I'm really happy that you made that distinction when you mentioned ripeness, but then you also then brought in freshness and the fact that it's not kind of gone to the jammy side. It's still like super drinkable, as you say, super mineralic, super well integrated, and I think also tastes. I'm saying super a lot, but it also tastes young as well. It feels like it's got a lot of energy and a lot of life in it, certainly. And it also just reminded me, I think it was maybe in Vievinum, I think a few years ago, going to a tasting called The Many Faces of Zweigelt. So I think this will be an interesting topic, maybe theme to talk about in terms of when we look at the other wines as well, because the fact that they're coming from those single vineyards, from those reeds, it's giving us that stamp, it's giving us that specific information about, okay, we know the soil, we know the aspect, we know what type of, we're keeping the vintage largely the same, and then we're just letting the Zweigelt talk to us and tell us what's different about those different sites.
Yeah, absolutely. The wines, I think that's the most typical character of the Carnuntum wines, the combination of highly ripe fruit and a very juicy fruit with lots of freshness and these cooler aspects on the palate. And the same, and the second wine, which is actually from my winery, Ried Bernreiser. My parents used to call the wine Anna Christina, named after my sister and me. Mm-hmm. Of course, for me, the origin is more important. So it's now called Ried Bernreiser, which is one of the classified Premier Cru vineyards here in the region. So it is definitely one of the most important vineyards in our area. It is one of the warmest vineyards we have, but also one of the leanest, with the driest soil, there's gravel, there is limestone, there is sand. It is a very stressy area actually for the wines, but once they are rooting deep enough, they are reaching these clayey areas where they find lots of water, good nutrition, lots of lime again. They are safe once they are down there, and you can feel it. I think you feel it in all the wines coming from Ried Bernreiser. There's the warmth, there's the highly ripe, dark, juicy fruit. And then finally, there's some freshness coming at the very back. Just giving them, some coolness, some cooler aspects, which are so drinkable and making the wine so interesting and multi-layered, actually. It is a blend again, based on zweigelt. So 75% is zweigelt with Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon in 15. Because we think we express the full potential of the vineyard with more different grape varieties, but the base of all our blends is zweigelt again. So this is absolutely our most important grape variety. Yeah. I think, and they are showing beautiful today. I think it's a good day.
Again, taking a step back, and I'm always thinking about the culture, because obviously you sell wines internationally, but you also, you sell a lot of wines in Austria, and maybe, people in Austria, they maybe have they have a view on the individual grape varieties, and they have a view on zweigelt that maybe we don't have internationally. We're maybe kind of a clean slate in terms of, how we view these new and exotic sounding grape varieties for us. So I wonder if, you could maybe, comment based on your experience, or articles or anything that you've sort of seen, but I guess kind of the outcome and the changes of perception of people who, I believe, maybe in the past they maybe felt zweigelt was more as a blending grape, and maybe didn't shine as either the main component in a blend or as a single varietal.
Yeah, it absolutely changed in the last years. Zweigelt is the most grown red grape variety in Austria. So there's lots of zweigelt produced in Austria. It is our most important and most typical grape variety. But of course, there are many wines that are maybe not showing the character of zweigelt that well. We think it is a great variety to produce light and easy drinking wines, but also you can produce something really complex and very special when you have the right vineyard, when you have all the wines, when you care for the wines, of course, the production in the vineyards, the handling in the vineyards is really important for zweigelt as well. Then it really shows its full potential, and it is a great variety, and it is absolutely produced for Austria. So we know it's exotic. We know the perception in Austria wasn't that well, but it absolutely changed because of us, we the winemakers. We changed our perception, and we started to work harder with the grape variety, and we thought there is more behind zweigelt than just an easy drinking wine. And so we started to work with it, and we were able to show to the people and to the market that there's definitely more potential behind zweigelt than just easy drinking and an easy glass of wine. And I think there was a big development in the last years, especially in the last 5 years, where so many new wines, pure zweigelt, single vineyard wines, were brought to the market and really showed what zweigelt can be. And this is again a combination of having older wines, having wines which are really deep-rooted, which are really set, which are really powerful, characterful wines. If you look at the vineyard, it is so great if you have an old vineyard with all the old wines. And when you have stressy times of the year and with low rainfall or very hot, they are still vigorous. They are still you feel the wines are feeling good, and they are doing a good job then because they are just settled and rooted.
Like from my point of view, when it comes to zweigelt, for me, it is always like for me, Grüner Veltliner is like zweigelt and the Riesling is like Blaufränkisch. If you wanted to compare like that. Also with Grüner Veltliner, you can start from an entry-level wine up to a really single vineyard one. And this is also possible with zweigelt. For me, Blaufränkisch, you can just do in the high premium stuff. Easy drinking Blaufränkisch, for me, I will choose the zweigelt. And for me, it's the kind of the same like the Riesling. But this is a very personal opinion, but for me it is like that. Because I think there was a problem in the past that the best zweigelt vineyards, what you had, you blended in your most famous wine. So it doesn't had like this big focus on this variety. But in the last years, Tina mentioned before, we had like a big, I would say a big change also regarding zweigelt. And for us, because I had a podcast in Berlin for like 2 months ago, and we also talked about the topic zweigelt. And I think it's not always the variety. It's also where it stands, how is the soil. You as a winemaker can like do a lot. and so it's not always that the variety is so bad. It's also a thing what you make out of it. This is just a thing what I wanted to add about the zweigelt topic. I prepared 2 single vineyard wines from our winery, what are very important for me to show, what I really love. I prepared Ried Kirchweingarten 2015, 100% zweigelt. And I also prepared Ried Rosenberg 2019. Ried Rosenberg is a blend of zweigelt and Blaufränkisch. But I would say if you know Markowitsch as a winery, you know these 2 wines. That's why I've chosen these ones. For us, because we talked about Carnuntum and the region and everything, and before we're going to start these 2 red wines, I want to mention that if you think about Carnuntum, for me, you should think about 2 big influences. And this is 100% the Danube River, so we have very cool nights and warm days. This is really the biggest difference what we have to Burgenland, because to Burgenland you drive 50 minutes, it's not far. But really, these cooler nights are very important for our style on the wines. And the second thing is that we have a lot of wind here, so we have like 300 days of wind, so very wind influenced region. And these 2 influence leads us to this style, what we do and what we can create. And of course, the second thing, or the most important thing actually, is the soil. So we're working on soil where we have a big amount of Danube gravels in combination with limestone. And I think this is very, very important to know. We can start when you want with the Ried Kirchweingarten 2015.
Okay, so yeah. 3 15s in a row, so yeah.
Yes, and 1 2019, because actually I think that 15 and 19 have something together, but we can taste and figure it out. Yeah. So Ried Kirchweingarten is a single vineyard in Höflein, so in our side village. It's actually a very, very small vineyard. We could cultivate 1.4 hectares of zweigelt there. It's our oldest zweigelt vineyard what we have, 35 years old. And it's a very unique zweigelt. So always when we harvest this one, we can recognize that we have the lowest pH, the highest acidity, very strong skins, and very the berries are not so stuck together. So you have space in between the berries. So it's when you taste it, it's really crunchy and it's really unique. We make this wine. Actually, 2015 was our first vintage that we do a single vineyard on the Kirchweingarten. How are we going to do it? We try to harvest it on the right point. This is a thing what is getting more and more important in our region. You have to find the right picking point. Then we do spontaneous fermentation in open vats for like 14 days. But what we do is very low extraction. So we do a pump over once a day, very short, to get a very elegant but concentrated style of the zweigelt. And then we put it in 500-liter barrels for 1.5 years without racking. Sometimes we rack, it depends on the year. But this is it. And there we want to show the people a style of zweigelt, what is very spicy, crunchy, well-bodied. I'm not sure if you drink it, if you really say it's a zweigelt. I'm not sure if people can really say that, because it's not a typical zweigelt. It's not so strawberry-like or darkberry-like. It's really spicy. It's have a lot of herbs. And I think on the palate, very beautiful tannins. For me, it's a very energetic style of zweigelt.
No, very, very interesting. I mean, I think, again, I think there's certainly a lot of similarities there. I mean, but I think that the thing that's front of mind, and that usually leads us in the right direction. More, I would say, so in the last two, so in the Netzl and now in the Ried Kirkweingarten, is actually, I think, on the nose, and then also visually. They both seem to talk to power actually. So actually and maybe intensity. And not to say that the palate is completely different from that, but I think there is certainly power there. But it's almost like the power has gone in a more of a spicy direction and a fresh direction, rather than the sort of mouth filling and cheek filling kind of power that I think you can get in Zweigelt, but you can get in, of course, many great varieties. And I just think, again, the word that comes to mind is just balance, and also drinkability, because again, we are tasting these, and a lot of times I'll be tasting wines that maybe they're challenging, or the conversation naturally kind of leads to food, and by all means these could sit very nicely at the dinner table, but I'm really loving the drinkability of all of these wines so far. So yeah, and 15, I guess it's a vintage that continues to give.
It's definitely a vintage what you can drink very long, so very high aging potential, the 15s, but I think in a row for all the single vineyards what we do. What I also forget to mention before, the most special thing about this wine is that in this vineyard we have the highest proportion of clay. And clay makes the red wines, I would say, very crispy, crunchy, concentrated, but still in a very, good and I would say sexy way. And this is why we love this vineyard so much. And I think if you have it a little bit longer in the glass, you can feel the change. It opens up. For me, this wine is always, I have the feeling I bite in the soil. It's so, it's real. It's like very honest zweigelt.
Yeah. Difficult to keep in the glass, though.
You can keep on drinking. Yeah, the second wine, what I prepared is our Red Rosenberg. It has been actually the first wine what my grandpa planted and my father made. So I think if you know Markowitsch, you know Rosenberg. It's a single vineyard in our village in Göttlisbrunn. The Rosenberg is like almost our highest elevation, up to 200, almost 280 meters. So it starts very flat and goes a little bit up. And because of this rolling hill, we have different layers of soil. So at the beginning of the vineyard, we have more the heavier soil, more the clay and the less. And the more you go up, you more find these Danube gravels. So at the top of the vineyard, you find 40 centimeters of pure Danube gravels. And this is the reason why we planted 3 different varieties on this side. So at the beginning, we have the Zweigelt, where we have more the heavier soil. When we go up, we have the Blaufränkisch and a little bit of Merlot. So this vineyard is 35 years old. And for us, we want to show Rosenberg. And if you combine it with like a song, you need different instruments to play it right. And for us, the varieties are the instruments. And we want to show the Rosenberg at its best. So we harvest it in 3 different stages. They are fermented separately and come then back together. And for us, Rosenberg, because we're doing it 35 years now, we know that this is a wine that can live very, very long. It shows its origin, I think, at its best. Rosenberg is always a very dark berried wine. It's always a very elegant wine with silky tannins and a very concentrated red wine, but still with a very good drinkability. And I think the 19 is, I love the 19s. I have been in the Alps 2 days ago because we sell a lot of wine there, and the sommelier there brought me a Rosenberg 2019, and I was really surprised and happy that we can show this style in the wines. It has been like 50% zweigelt, 25 Blaufränkisch, 25 Merlot. But of course, if we plant new vineyards, and if we're planting new vineyards with this high proportion of Danube gravels, we plant more and more Blaufränkisch because we get really amazing results. So I think the biggest challenge for us would be where we plant what for the future, because you imagine if you plant it 4 years later, you have the first harvest. But if it's really high, deep rooted, it takes like 20, 25 years. So it's a big investment in the future. So we think a lot about that.
Yeah, no, I'll mention it, and I think it's probably easy to hear, but I've got a big smile on my face, which is always a sign. I think that's really it's singing. As Tina was saying earlier, the wines are really showing well today, I think, and that's gorgeous. It's just so again, it's the drinkability, it's the character. I want to say it's I think almost. All three, and as you say, to play the music, the Rosenberg trio are totally in harmony together, and again, it's just really in such a good place. It's got length. It's again, I think it's got an expression of power.
Yeah, of course.
But I think different to maybe where there's more zweigelt. Maybe it's more the power is more in more of a velvet glove maybe, and maybe I know that the people talk about that a lot with Blaufränkisch, so that it brings in that kind of velvety kind of smoothness. So I'll attribute it there, and I think also in Merlot, of course, that kind of plushness. And but yeah, just I think as well the important thing for me here is it's still in line with the others. It's not like a complete outlier now that we're bringing in even an international grape variety. And I purposely held myself back from asking because it was the question that I wanted to ask before. Was around, say a little bit about the choice of planting sites then, because sometimes I'll have people on and they'll talk about the planting decision from quite an analytical way. They'll take the core samples, they'll analyze, they'll get the pHs, and they'll be very much data led in terms of where they're going to do those plantings. It sounded as though it was more of a reading of the land and almost more of a heart, and where are these grapes going to perform their best. But yeah, maybe shine a light on the decisions and the process that led into those plantings.
Yeah. I mean, the planting decision is always not so easy, but luckily my dad did a lot of work in the last 30 years. So I think now we know even more better where we do a planting where and why. I mean, we did like a lot of analysis from our soils, and maybe you can see our profile of the soils when we go upstairs. So we really did a lot of projects to get in touch more with our mother nature, with our soil. And now for us, actually, when I think about new plantings, for us in the white wine segment, we plant Chardonnay. And for the reds, we plant Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch. Now we planted 4 years ago some Cabernet Franc because we wanted to try something. But I think this will be the three varieties, what we plant in the future. I mean, never say that we do not plant, I don't know, for mint or anything else. But I think due to the climate change, let's see what will happen in the future. The only thing what we have for 100% is the soil. But the varieties, maybe they can change. We do not know. But for now, status quo, for the reds, it's Zweigelt, Blaufränkisch, and for the whites, for us as a winery, it's Chardonnay. And a little bit of Weißburgunder. And then if we can get the new vineyard, it's not so easy because all the good vineyards are like gone. But I think if you live here and you see a vineyard, I think your feeling tells you what you should plant. I think you don't need a lot of analysis and data. I think you know.
A huge thanks to today's guests, Johanna Markowitsch and Christina Netzl of Weinguts Markowitsch and Netzl, respectively. Make sure you visit them online at markowitsch.at and netzl.com spellings also below in the description, to both discover more about their projects and to find their main social media handles. And why not reach out to them to let them know what you thought of the episode, and of course to continue the conversation and ask any questions that it might have raised. Next time on Interpreting Wine Carnuntum Winemaker series, in the final episode 542, I'll be speaking with Philip Grassel and Carolina Taverna on the theme of Rubin Carnuntum. Make sure you subscribe to be alerted when that episode goes live. See you then.